and I just got hooked on it. There was something about him that I just could relate to. Like he was young,
Mm.
he was from Pittsburgh, so it was a Pennsylvania type thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
there was something dope about him. And I was like, how do you make that kind of music? Like it's so simple, it's so dynamic, but it's so much fun to listen to.
Welcome, everybody, to Prove to Me That You're Alive, the only show in the world that will challenge your perception and reality on life itself and give you a mental kick in that spiritual gut so you can start gasping for air of information with a brand new enthusiasm like when you were a little kid. Today, I gotta say my butt up, everybody. That's my little thing, man. Today. See, when I started the show, when I started the channel back in 2008, it was supposed to be a hip hop channel. Obviously, it evolved into different things. But when I started Prove to Me That You're Alive, I really wanted to talk to super interesting people, and I've been so blessed, man, to have these interesting people come into my life that I'm able to talk to. But today I got a super special guest. Now, when I say this, man, I'm not tripping. Today I have the future of music, man. I'm not tripping when I say this, trust me. I won't be afraid to say this. The future of hip hop, the future of producing, the future of beat making, and the future of engineering itself, man. Today I have a super special guest, man. Spence Pacholski is on the show, man. Now,
what's up, everybody?
When I added this, it's gonna be claps and cheers and everything like that, man. I gotta add something over here because that's the only thing we're missing, man. But listen, thank you so much for doing this. I truly and honestly, every word I said, I meant it. The one thing that I really appreciate about you is how musical you are. I've always told you how talented you are, but you are so musical. This man right here plays any instrument, man. He makes crazy beats.
That's a fact.
If I would have to say, like, he's a musical prodigy, man. He's the Mozart of our day, man. I'm not tripping when I say this, man. So
Thank you, man.
It's my great honor to have you on, man. How you doing, boss, man?
Man, I'm doing fucking awesome. And that was a beautiful introduction, man. I feel good. I feel like my chest got bigger as you said that. I feel great, man. That's awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean it, man. I really mean it. I really meant every word that I said, man. You blew my mind. And by the way, the intro to the Prove to Me That You're Alive is one of your instrumentals now, man. So
I was gonna say I actually peeped that on your Instagram. I was like, dude, it's such a good piece of audio for those types of like IG like real snippets. So I was like, yes,
it's crazy, right? Yeah. It really fits in. Spence, if you could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where you from, possibly what you do, maybe what do you want to do? Like, just break it down a little bit of who you are, basically.
I got you. So my name is Spencer Reese Pacholski. I am from Yardley, Pennsylvania. I'm currently 23 years old. I've been doing music since I was 10 years old, maybe a little bit before that. Man, I've always been musical my whole life. I grew up in a family dynamic where my dad came from a punk band back in the day. My mother was an ensemble band in school, so like we always had music usually going on in the house, or like we'd take drives and I would always like listen to different things they put me on to. So even from an early age, I was just exposed to different genres and different music. And so for I guess how I kind of got started with like my musical like background, probably I'd say like 8 or 9, like my dad was just playing guitar in the house. He also, it's fun fact, he also used to skate as well. He was a big skater. So like punk music and hardcore music was like a big thing for him, and hip hop as well. And we actually, in our old house, we used to have a little half pipe in the basement. and he built it because he's a carpenter, and he would literally like ride my ass like on the fucking half pipe, and there's videos of it with like hip hop and like rap music and like punk music playing in the back. So it was sick. So my dad was playing guitar, you know, majority of his life and shit. And probably around like 8 or 9, I just picked up on the idea and I thought it was so crazy. I thought I was like, dude, I want to try to play like an instrument. It's just such a weird thing. Like it's interesting to me. And I first started on guitar, self-taught. He would just try to, well, he taught me first. And he kind of just gave me the ropes of how to play chords and, you know, basic things like that. And then I just kind of got obsessed with the idea of it, just hanging by myself at home or whatever, like coming home from school, and I just want to play guitar. And then it was weird. Like, I don't know where the initial thing happened when I got into drums. That was like kind of sporadic for me, but I do remember like when I was 10, I got a drum set for Christmas time, not my birthday, but Christmas time. It was a piece of shit from like Toys R Us. And I used to just bang on that bitch probably up until I was like 15. And like same deal. I got self-taught in that lane, even up during to that time. Like my friend Andrew used to come over. He lives like right up the street from me. His name's Andrew Flick. He would come over and he would play his bass while I'd play on this stupid little toy kit. And, you know, that would be pretty fun. And we just like jam around. And then once I stepped up a little bit as I got older and I got, you know, around other people in school and age brackets and things, is kind of when I started discovering hip hop and like, you know, beat production and shit, which was pretty cool. I'd say about 7th or 8th grade was like when I first discovered it. I discovered it through my friend Drew DeBellis. We used to have social studies together.
Shout out to Drew, man.
Yeah, shout out Drew, man. He's a sushi chef in Massachusetts, which is pretty sick now. He makes sushi for people. That's my boy. Crazy. But he introduced me to Mac Miller, and that was like my first coming of rap music, anything. And
wow.
I was
what year was that? I'm sorry for interrupting. What year was that, man?
It was around, I believe, like late 2015 or early 2016.
Shit. Okay.
Type shit. So fucking he showed me Mac Miller, and I just got hooked on it. There was something about him that I just could relate to. Like he was young, you know, he was from Pittsburgh, so it was a Pennsylvania type thing. I don't know. There was something dope about him. And I was like, how do you make that kind of music? Like it's so simple, it's so dynamic, but it's so much fun to listen to.
Do you remember the first track that you heard that really like rocked you, man?
It was either Donald Trump or Best Day Ever. I forget. It was one of those first two that I remember hearing when I was a kid. And then here's the fun thing, right? So after I did, it's kind of weird because like things in my life like spiritually lined up at the right times and fucking came in. So it's like the following year, right? My uncle and my two cousins play football out in like Pennsauken, like Cherry Hill area and shit like that, I believe, or like Medford, around that whole tri-state.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time I didn't have a laptop to do anything or make any beats, but my friend Nick did. And his name was Nick D'Amico. He was the first one that introduced me to production. And I had school with him for years and years, but I never really talked it up with him until I got older. And I remember just sitting in class with him one time. I was like, he brought his laptop in and he showed me all these dubstep beats.
Oh,
and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this about? Like, this is crazy. So he shows me that. I'm intrigued. I'm like, I got to get a laptop and try that. So I asked my uncle. He's like, yo, I have an extra Toshiba laptop in the back of my, my fucking garage, and, you can have it. I was like, okay, it was your cousin's. I got that shit. And crazy enough, when I opened it, there was a playlist on the Apple section of the laptop that had Mac Miller. It had Big Sean. It had A$AP Rocky. It had Run DMC, Run the Jewels, like all these different groups of all different kinds. And from that is when I literally discovered my first taste of like real hip hop. And I was like, nah, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. So I looked up production software on, YouTube, downloaded FL Studio. I think at the time I had like 10 or 11. And same deal, just like how I trained myself with instruments and drums. I taught myself how to use FL top to bottom. I would come home from school every day. I'd sit there for hours after homework. I would skip homework.
Fruity Loops, right?
I would skip not class, but homework and shit when I got home just to learn how to make beats. Like I'd be doodling on my pages while I'm cooking a beat. I'm like, all right, fuck math today. I'm learning how to make a Jake Dilla type beat, like some shit like that. And the cycle just kind of continued all through school, man. Like I genuinely just fell down the rabbit hole. And from there, like I got good with doing other genres. Once I got, used to the program, started fucking with pop, started fucking with R&B, started fucking with like, rock music. I started doing everything on FL. And just over time, man, like I just developed an obsession and a passion for it. And like I never looked back. So like that was really just like the first comings of like when I started and like kind of where I'm at now. Now my main thing that I'm doing now is obviously making beats and shit, like hip hop beats for rappers of all kinds. But I have a band now, you know about it. It's called Tripod.
Yeah.
We're a hardcore band from the area right here, and I'm trying to work with tons of bands, tons of rappers, just anything I can get my hands on with new people that are coming up, man. So
Shout,
that's like,
shout out to Tripod, man. See, this is one thing that I thought about, like what makes you a super musical genius is because like I'm a hip hop fan, right? Like my whole life, like I'm a rapper's rapper. Like my
Yeah.
heavy metal when I was a kid was Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, classic.
But
Classic.
but when I heard the Tripod, your band's music, man, I noticed that I'm bobbing my head, man. And
Yes.
and this is how
Fuck
you
yeah.
and this is how you know when you take, a hardcore New Yorker hip hop head and you have him bobbing his head, man. That's how you know you're onto something, man. You know what I'm
Fuck
saying?
yeah.
And
Hell yeah.
that's what makes you so brilliant, man, because you're not afraid to step into, like all these different, different grooves and different sounds and everything like that. And that's so dope, man. And
That's a fact.
I always say when I was a kid, hip hop was underground, but now like
Yes.
music like metal and rock is like underground, man.
Yeah,
So, so
exactly. It's like
I
it's flip-flopped.
a flip flop, man. And I salute like all the young people that are not just following the trends, man, that are actually, are being bold enough to try something else, man. That's so dope, man.
Hell yeah.
What was your childhood like, man? What kind of area are you from? Like to get to know you a little better, man.
Absolutely. So I'm the type of guy where it's like I've had, a broad spectrum of growing up with people that have had all different scenarios. So I've seen it all. I've been around majority of it all so far. But pertaining to my specific upbringing, I will admit I didn't have the craziest, hardest life compared to some of my friends and other people. I was actually very fortunate and I've been very blessed my whole life. Initially started out, my parents moved here to Newtown when I was like first born, which is like 10 minutes away from where I'm at. And lived out in Newtown in like a townhouse with my younger brother. I mean, when he was first born, because we're 4 years apart. So like
Yeah.
I was 5, he was 1. My dad obviously is a carpenter. My mother is an insurance agent. So they were constantly just doing their own thing in and out the house. For the most part, I mean, growing up around in the tri-state was pretty good. And then basically once we got until we were around, I was like around like 5, we moved to here to my current crib in Yardley, and we've been here ever since. The area relatively is pretty nice, at least where I'm at. It's the neighbors are pretty cool. I mean, it's fucking old people walking their dogs and you fucking picking up shit and skateboarders and people that hoop and shit like that. It's kind of like just any generic, outer suburban, I guess, neighborhood you could say. But I will say though, it's like it's kind of crazy how the tri-state area works. Like when you really start moving around to other like boroughs or like sections, like the whole dynamic changes.
Yeah.
Like I could go 10 minutes to Levittown and the feel of the entire area of Levittown is completely different on housing situations, like, architecture, people, styles, things of that nature. So yeah, but for the most part, like as far as how Yardley goes, like it's all pizza, dogs, and old people.
Would you say it's so I really appreciate like you saying that you were blessed in your life, man. That's so important. And I always say that karmically is because you deserved it, man. You know what I mean? So that's what's up. So were you close to your mom and your dad when you were growing up? Like did you have a good relationship?
Yeah, relatively for the most part. I think growing up, I was a little bit closer to my mother, I would say, rather than my father, because my father growing up was very busy on, what he did and like his profession. So like, I had a relationship with him, obviously, and I still do. I actually this year and past couple years has been the tightest we've been. But yeah, growing up, like I was a little bit more catered to my mom's side. I think it was just because of just like, it's your mom. Like,
It's always like that, man.
yeah, it's just what it is. But me and my dad, like we've had a great relationship, pretty much majority of our entire life as well.
That's
So, and same goes to my younger brother as well. Family's gonna always have those times where it's like your parents piss you off, or like,
yeah.
you piss them off and you go do some young bullshit and like they're upset with you. Like it's just it's what comes with life. So yeah.
Is your family like are they religious in any way or
My dad is a little more religious, specifically my mom is a little bit more laid back. I'm kind of like dead in the middle of that. My brother's kind of like around there too. I've grown up Presbyterian my whole life. My dad, I believe, growing up, he would take us to Presbyterian church, but he grew up Catholic.
Mm,
And I believe my mom was Presbyterian, and that's where that rolled over into for him. Same with my brother. So majority of us have been Presbyterian, but my dad's kind of back to being Catholic now.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me asking, man. It's just like, getting to know you a bit better, man. It's, all these things are interesting, man. So, do you believe in God?
absolutely.
I just went left field
Ab-
on this one, man.
Nah, these are great
Yeah,
questions, man.
yeah.
I love to hear it.
That's what's up, man. What was your first like introduction, you would say, to like questions like that, man? Could you remember something like that? Like,
If God was real.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is awesome. So growing up my entire life, like I believed in him, but as much as I believed in him, I never really saw proof too much that he was around, or like, I mean, maybe I was younger and I was just kind of like deceiving to myself and I didn't really tune in because I was young. But I think as I got older, once things started happening in my life and like, you know maybe people stepped out the picture, there's a family accident or somebody dies, and like,
Mhm.
things of all that kind of nature comes into play, that kind of makes you think like, is he real or not? It kind of makes you question. And like, there was definitely one period, back in like 2020 where I really believed that like mans exist. I was like, yeah, I was right. I knew it. You know what I
Why?
mean?
Why did something happen?
Yeah, so back in 2020, my dad unfortunately had like a mental health issue, and there was a big accident that happened here at the house. My aunt and my uncle were lucky enough to help us out, and they know what's up. But they managed to help us out, and we got my dad in a really good situation. We got him to the hospital and helped him out. And during that whole time that was happening, as much as I was really distraught and
Mhm.
kind of taken back at the whole situation, couple months later, when I really looked back on it, I was so thankful that he was still here, because
Mm,
he might have not been if I didn't step in the picture and help to save
yeah.
him, as well as my aunt and my uncle. And that was just like one of those things where I was just like, yeah, like God saved him, man. Like he helped, like if he would have died that day, or he wouldn't have been here. I mean, like who knows? But he kept him here for a reason. And I think that was like one of the first examples of like, yeah, he's with us and he's here to help us.
That's what